Today we celebrate the feast of St. Denis, who is the first bishop of Paris and has a very interesting martyrdom story, which we really don't know is true. I've mentioned this before, but when I was a tour guide in Rome, when I lived there, I used to begin all my tours by saying when we talk about the saints, there are stories that are true and stories that should be. And I will be making no distinction on this tour. And then I would just tell all these outrageous stories about saints and miracles and stuff, but I had made the disclaimer in the beginning. So this story about St. Denis either is true or should be, and I will be making no distinction. So he's from Rome, but he got sent up to Gaul, which is France, and he had a bunch of companions, and they all got killed, and then St. Denis was beheaded. And so then the legend of St. Denis is the fact that his body then stood up after he was beheaded and picked up his head, and he began walking. So this is why if you look up St. Denis, he's always depicted carrying his head. So I'm just saying this, that totally happened, and if it didn't, it should have, and it's awesome. So if you know anybody named Dennis, you should call them today and wish them a happy feast of their patron saint today. I'd like to point out one of the human conditions that we find in our first reading, in our gospel passage today from the Gospel of Luke. Jesus has just driven out a demon. Now just for a second here, I want you to imagine that a person that you love in your life is possessed by a demon. I know many of you are thinking your spouse, but someone in your life is possessed by a demon. And Jesus shows up and drives the demon out. So Jesus does something wonderful, does something good, kind, gracious, helpful. When Jesus had driven out a demon, some of the crowd said, "By the power of Beelzebul, the prince of demons, he drives out demons." Others who tested him asked him for a sign from heaven. How often is it that someone does something good and our human nature, which is fallen, automatically criticizes the individual for their motives or their intentions or how the act was done, even though it was a good act, even though it was something that very possibly benefited us? We attack the individual. There's this sense that what someone does is never really good enough. That's the one side of humanity. What's the other side? Gratitude. Tremendous gratitude. Awe and reverence and being in debt to others who do tremendous things. And you see that in the disparity of man, there's this critical spirit. In this disparity of man, there's this negative spirit where we don't recognize, we don't see, we close our eyes to the goodness that is before us. And thus, even when one clearly drives out a demon, Jesus is criticized for it. There's this disbelief in the good that has happened. Today, let's strive to recognize the good that is before us, the good that others do, the good that we do, and to recognize it for what it is, and in that, to give thanks to God, and in that, to give praise to the Lord. Let us stand.